there's been a new article from the race grifters, and this one is Team GB still too white and suburban, say Sports England official. Yeah, that's the problem with the team. Too white. Okay, whatever. So if we go to the article itself, they see Chris Grant laments massive underrepresentation in team of diversity in elite sport. Thing is here, keep in mind the percentage of white people in the UK is 86%. They'll come back to that in a minute because turns out it's actually perfectly represented, but that's the problem. That's still too white. Even perfect representation is not non-white enough. So they say, whilst the BMX riders Kai Whiten, I don't know how to say these names, and Bethany Shearever have been a standout stories of the Tokyo Olympics, and the latter had to crowdfund and work as a teaching assistant to travel to competitions before British Cycling funded her in 2019. Yeah, I know, it's almost as if specialising in sport is quite an elitist thing to do, and you need to get some quite elite connections to get that as your main pursuit.
Well, yeah, there's a bit of a threshold, isn't there, where you've got to be good enough to do it professionally to be able to sustain it as a career. So you've got to be able to dedicate resources to doing that sport professionally. You can't
also,
just fall into it.
There's also the aspect of, like, well, I suppose we could argue, like, genetics and all that. Like, if you have a well upbringing, you know, if your parents are able to give you a well upbringing, there's a higher chance of you being the best physically, let's say, probably. But I don't know. Anyway, so they continue. Team GB, Paralympics GB, and their support teams do not look and sound like the whole population. As if they should. I don't know what this obsession with, like, equal outcomes is with these people, but good God, I'm sick of it. That is absurd, but I think the challenge is that people don't think it's absurd, because it's not absurd. I don't know what is wrong with leftists and their obsession with everything being the equal outcome of what you put in. Population equals X, therefore outcome should equal X. Makes no damn sense. Anyway. But also, I don't know why there's a goal along racial lines in particular with this guy. Because you'll notice later on, there's a bunch of other ways you could look at this along class lines. You could look at it upon elitist lines. You could look at it upon geographic lines across the UK. No, not interested in that because race grifting is, you know, bread and butter for the left, I guess. According to the presentation, Grant gave to Sports England Talent Inclusion Advisory Group, a totally worthwhile organisation. More than a third of the sports funded through the Talented Athlete Scholarship Scheme had 0 athletes that were non-white. And if there was a group that was entirely non-white, would that be a problem? Never is it? It's only because there's a group there, you know, of sportsmen, and there's no non-white people in there, therefore that's a problem. And he estimates that between a third of all Olympic and Paralympic sports have never had an athlete from an ethnic minority background. What does that matter? The race isn't important here, surely, my friend, but of course not.
This is probably one of the same people who would have been like, yeah, the reason that the England football team got to the finals is because of diversity.
Yeah, he goes on to say that, and make the diversity ideology argument, that diversity is our strength when we're winning, and when we're losing, also diversity is our strength. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the same presentation quoted research revealing that in the last decade, about half of all Team GB medalists attended private school. See, there's your little note. Like, it's not about the race in this case, mostly. Well, we'll get into some of the other arguments about race later, but it's the elitist attitude. I mean, the elitist nature of the Olympics would naturally prelude to the people competing are probably going to be quite elite. I mean, private schools, half of them.
Yeah, I don't remember. I imagine you probably don't either, being tried out for loads of Olympic sports. I don't know.
Well, I was never a sportsman anyway, but none of the sportsman people in my school ever were either, as far as I'm
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so they... Tokyo Olympics and Team GB's lack of dominance in some of its traditional preferred sports has raised questions about a funding model that has been described as brutal but effective. So because we're losing now, diversity isn't our strength, therefore the problem here is not the diversity, as the ideology would have you follow if it followed logical lines. Instead, it's the funding method. Okay, right. For example, Team GB rowing, which currently has only 2 non-white athletes, received £24,000 in the last Olympic cycle from UK Sport, yet produced only 2 medals, 1 silver and 1 bronze. There we go.
It's not that bad, to be honest.
There's also no diversity, no wins. Simple as. I mean, that's his argument there. It's like, well, there's no diversity in the rowing team, therefore the rowing team fails.
So silver and bronze isn't good enough.
No.
So second and third place in the world, apparently not good enough.
No. Sally Munday, the chief executive for UK Sport, said Tokyo had already produced incredible role models for diversity. Not for young people, for England, for
sports
Britain.
people.
No, it's just role models for diversity. Right, okay. With the Games hailed as the Rainbow Olympics, while Team GB took more women than men for the first time. So there's an inequality there that we could correct. Need to kick women out of sport, do we? Because there's too many of them. No, only ever goes one way. Anyway. But the body recognises that much more needs to be done. We don't have 100% diversity yet. I love it. With the meme of like a full female boardroom. It's like, finally we've reached 100% diversity because it's all women. Therefore, they are diverse citizens.
I don't know how they can hold that view. Surely they must be aware, especially recently when reports in the UK have been like, yeah, the white working class are doing probably the worst.
So
like, yeah, well, we need diversity, clearly.
Never ends. So the more that needs to be done is to take aim and reflect British society at the heart of its diversity strategy, she said. Overall, 86% of Team GB's athletes in Tokyo were white. I can already hear, like, every time I hear someone talk like this, it's like Hamza Yusuf. Anyway. So, but there we go. Overall, 86% of Team GB's athletes in Tokyo were white. 68%. Sorry, 86%. Reflective of the 2011 census figure for the overall population. They write in the article. So,
and they're saying this as a complaint, even though they've actually achieved their goal just by chance.
Overall, 86% of Team GB's athletes were white, reflective of the census. But the team is still too white.
So that's a pretty naked acknowledgement of their agenda here, really, isn't it? It's not about actual representation at all.
Never was.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised.
For these people, I'm honestly just believing it's about hating white people, because I don't know what else can honestly motivate you.
That's probably one of the only explanations you can have here.
Yeah, but I love that. They were either, it's in line with the census, but what? Monday acknowledged that some sports had more work to do than others to reflect modern Britain. Why? Does it have to be 86% white in every single sport? Like, we're going to go down to the individual level? Do the individual athletes need to be 86% white? Is that how we're going to do this? Jesus Christ.
We're going to selectively breed athletes now, just to...
so that they, like, proportionally, all their genes are representative of the ethnic makeup of Britain.
As soon as the demographics change of the country, they've got to retire. That's it.
Yeah.
Career ruined.
But that's the thing. The smallest minority is the individual. And therefore, if we're going to have minority representation, well, it has to go down to the individual level. So we are going to have 86% white athletes, I suppose. So she says, you'll see it black and white in the strategy because we mean it. We're prepared to be measured on it and to be held accountable for it. Really? So when are you going to resign? Because if diversity ideology is losing, therefore you have to be held accountable. You're the one who was like, yeah, diversity ideology means wins. Therefore you have to leave, surely. Because diversity ideology is not producing the wins they want. But progress was painfully slow and difficult, said Grant. Part of the reason it hasn't happened is that some of the people who are in positions of power don't really believe it can happen.
Well, of course.
Some of the higher-ups don't believe in the ideology. Yeah, surprising.
So some people have some common sense that, equity doesn't work.
Yeah, and he says, and part of that, frankly, is unconscious bias, he said.
Oh yeah, that thing that definitely exists and definitely isn't a load of rubbish.
Yeah. So defeat is also proof that more diversity ideology is needed. When there's a win, diversity is our strength. When there's a lose, diversity is our strength. And if we're not getting the progress we need, well, we just need more diversity ideology. If you're interested in that idea, there's the Long March book club we did, which is going up at 5 p.m. today, so go and check that out. But anyway, Grant has spoken previously about structural racism in British sport and said that it is so deep and persuasive, it amounts to a kind of apartheid.
It was deep and pervasive, wasn't it? But
it's apartheid.
Yeah, I doubt modern day Britain is apartheid.
No, only in the sporting sector. That's why you never see the black guys in the pool or the white guys on the track. Apartheid. That's why that happens. Okay, rightio. There is an overt racism throughout sport and activity at every level, of course, there is. Sport has a massive heritage of exclusion, he said, adding that until 1948, a British boxing champion had to prove that they had 2 white parents. Yeah, 1948. Which is why today there are no black boxers from England. Yeah,
they're talking about overt racism in the modern day, and they're going all the way back to 1948 to find an example.
Well, in 1948, there was a rule about this. It's like, what has it been now since then? 70 years? 73 years, to be precise, for that one. But, okay, that's how far you have to go back. Transforming the composition of the UK's Olympic and Paralympic teams to reflect the population is not only good for sport, he said. If we can fix some of these problems in sport, then that genuinely provides a model for how they can be fixed in other areas of society. It's never about the thing, is it? It's never about sport. It's not about getting better sportsmen. It's always just, well, this is a new testing ground for diversity ideology. And if it can fix here, well, then it can fix everything in society. It's just everything will be fixed. Why? Because more diversity. What if we've got the correct percentage of whites, as shown? Still not enough diversity.
Yeah, I'm amazed that they even included that. Surely that undermines their entire argument. Just like, yeah, we've got perfect representation, but it's still not enough.
It's not enough diversity. Perfect representation. We need imperfect representation to be true diversity. Yeah. What's entertaining about this particular cope as well is that up until like right now, the teams for this Olympics were hailed as proof of diversity success. So, as mentioned earlier, the Rainbow Olympics, Tokyo hailed as the turning point for LGBTQ plus athletes, because that's what this is really about. I thought I was the best diver in all of the Team GB. No, you're a gay. That's the summation of your goals. Anyway, so there's also the next one. Team GB embrace unity in diversity. It's the theme for their Olympics kit. Sounds like something out of V for Vendetta, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like
yeah.
Unity through strength, diversity through unity.
Imagine as well being like a sports person. You've worked really hard to become the best in the country for your sport, and then the thing that everyone's interested in, the color of your skin, that's so amazing. Just like, surely it must be demeaning for them as well, in that they've put in so much effort to get where they are, and then everyone's fascinated about something that they had no control over. Whereas the interesting thing to me is the fact that they've got that good at the sport to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care that much about Olympics because it's...
I haven't really
Olympics,
followed it. I don't
because
care.
it's also this time round it's been particularly political, let's say. But this is just really funny as it's a rerun of the chapters about football in which it was like, yeah, diversity is our strength. Oh no, we lost. Well, that means diversity isn't our strength. No. It means diversity is still our strength. Okay. And the same thing's apparently happening here. They're not happy with the performance, even though, I don't know, I thought everyone did all right.
Yeah, I mean,
we hearing anything that terrible.
I think, weren't we roughly in the top 5 of the countries? And I mean, we're not exactly the largest country. Normally it's like US and China who have large populations. So considering that our population is a fraction of those countries, we did all right.
I love the idea that they're thinking, well, China doesn't have diversity. We do, therefore we should be better than China. Okay. Anyway, so when diversity wins, diversity is our strength. When diversity does not win, diversity is our strength. And this is, of course, a violation of logical principles. This is the video Carl made about the football, in which you just run the logic. If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. Diversity is our strength. Didn't win, therefore diversity is not... Oh, wait, you can't say that, can you? Because that would run the ideology through logical mills, which is not allowed. Go and give that video a watch as well, because that's fantastic. Anyway, so that's the charade with the football. What's interesting is you can also just break down the situation with the Olympics again. So if we can go, there's a graph on here in which they show the distribution of the different areas. So if you can scroll down, you're going to have to scroll down quite a bit. So it's after this one, and then there's the graph underneath, which shows where the medal winners have come from throughout the country. And as you can see there, the Northwest, 91% white, Scotland, 96% white, are the most overrepresented areas of the winners. So actually, the figures of the Olympians is actually underrepresented whites there. But also the people who hadn't won, the underrepresented areas for winners, Northern Ireland, 98% white, Northeast, 95% white, Southwest, also 95% white.
Proud of the Southwest being underachievers. We always have been.
But just, there's the point. Like, the overachiever and underachieving regions are overwhelmingly more white than the team. So it's almost like your racial grievance politics is not accurate of the reality on the ground here of things that might be more important when you can't point to a single law or a single scholarship or anything that's specifically for white people. You can in reverse though, can't you? Anyway, so if we go to the next one, you can see the higher education graph for the Seoul report, because here's the thing. You can say that, well, it's underrepresented brown people. Well, I can actually point to some differences in the law and the treatment. And if we just run this ideology in reverse for a second, you can see there of the white groups that make it to higher education or free school meals, they're all near the bottom. The very bottom group being white British.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
The lowest performing groups in getting into higher education, the most, deprived? The most deprived groups, white British, not black Caribbean, not Bangladeshi, Indian, black African, Chinese. Chinese at the top, I can see John raising a fist. But that's the case. Well, then I guess we'll just start scholarships for white British students to get to higher education. No, of course not. No. Instead, what do we have as an example? We go to the next one, you see Christchurch, so Oxford. New BAME Law Scholarship announced at Christchurch, Oxford. This was last year. They did this. So even though they know the Seoul report is out, you can look at the data. I mean, they're
using the outdated and racist BAME acronym as well. That's even worse.
Haven't had the update. But they're not the only ones. Bristol's also doing the same, providing £1 million available to support black students. Even though they're overperforming,
Well, yeah, it wasn't black African like the top, second to top behind the Chinese.
Of free school meals, much more likely to get to university. And that was just black African, the Chad. Black Caribbean, lower, but still higher than white British. White British, massively underperforming. And if we go back to the Olympics, you can just see also this sort of thing for sport. British weightlifting. What have they got? BAME weightlifting coaching scholarship. Because that's what's important. The coach needs to have brown skin. So there's the thing. Like, there is no scholarship you can point to that's specifically for like white applicants, and therefore the team's too white because of structural racism or something. But I can actually point to some structural racism against white applicants and in favor of BAME applicants, whatever the hell that means. Because that's still not really hidden down, is it? But anyway. Also, I wanted to mention that you can't really insulate yourself about this. This is something else we spoke about in the book club about the Long March. There's the idea that you could, you can just ignore this or try and get away from it. The thing is, it affects everything, doesn't it? The cult of diversity.
I mean, nothing has really escaped.
Do you have money? Are you interested in money at all?
No, not at all.
Well, then you're also going to get hit by this. So, US Stock Exchange sets diversity rules for listed companies.
I mean, why would they even need that in the first place?
You would have thought the only colour was green, but no. Stock Exchange is like, yeah, we need racial quotas for handling money.
Pretty sure stock exchanges discriminate against humans by preferring AI and stuff like that. Most of it is automated.
Anyway. Firms on NASDAQ, which include tech giants such as Apple and Tesla, will have to have at least 2 diverse directors, or explain why they do not. Diverse directors. I mean, we really are moving towards like diversity citizen as a statement. Like, there's citizens and then there's diverse citizens. And therefore they're worth more because you can have them in the diversity roles. I mean, this is how they talk about them. I mean, what was the one we looked at where it was women? I can't remember what organization it was, but they described women as like diverse applicants or something like that. It was like...
Are they? They are the majority.
Yeah, but they're diverse because they're women. Even though they're 51% of the population, they're still diverse. I love it. Anyway, so the directors should include one person who identifies as female. Identifies... Lads, there's your chance. And another as an underrepresented minority or LGBTQI+. Right. I love how they're just like, yeah, brown person or a gay. Basically the same. But it also shows how arbitrary this is. There is no recourse or argument for why the representation is important. It's just do it.
Mm-hmm. But you have hit on an important thing, that it's all about you can identify, right? So there is a loophole here where... if you are a white man who is probably going to be discriminated against by affirmative action policies, just identify as someone else.
I mean, the best one to do is probably gay. Because, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to make you prove it in the interview? Because that's illegal.
Yeah, how would that even happen?
Exactly. Like, they could say, well, you're not made much of an effort to come in as a woman today. But and that would be evident. But if you just say, yeah, no, I'm gay. I'll take the diversity job, please. I mean, they're not going to make you suck off the boss to try and find out if you're telling the truth. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, if you want a job as a diverse citizen in future, we're all gay, mate.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.